purple monster with horns falls helplessly to the ground, barely moving and looking at the boy in front of him, who silently holds a sword and says that the hero has defeated him. It's hard to believe. The boy puts the sword behind his back, sparks flare, and Piri tells him that he held on for a long time, Demon King Madeline. A beam of light shatters against his sword, and the Demon King tells the boy that this is not the end. After his death, new lords of demons will come for him. The main hero uses Ragnarok Caliber, and with a furious strike rushes at the Demon King. He screams in pain and, gritting his teeth, says that this battle will last forever. The boy on his knees looks at a hole in the ceiling, one thought spinning in his head. Finally, he managed to tame the Demon King. If this were one of those role-playing games the boy played before, the credits would already be rolling. Several years ago, when he passed away, he was called a hero. Now he is finally free, and the boy is happy about it, while people look at him and say that finally the brave one's victory has come. In the kingdom of Hajimano Shodo, the main hero walks together with his team. Around, people joyfully shout that the hero has returned with victory. Everyone greets the great hero Shodo, and his comrades walk behind smiling. Even King Zamasel himself is the first to joyfully welcome their arrival and says that it is thanks to them that this world has been saved. The king approaches the main hero, puts his hands on his shoulders, and says that a special reward awaits him, his daughter. The boy blushes and looks confused. The king tells the boy that he will give him Princess Trappy. The girl at first sits with a displeased look, but as soon as she sees the hero, she immediately smiles sweetly. The girl takes the boy's hand, looks into his eyes, and suggests making the kingdom better together. She seriously says that with his strong weapon, and with her by his side, they can change everything for the better. The princess raises her hand and loudly announces that together with him, they will lead the kingdom and unite this world, while the knights in armor look at her stunned. Everyone shouted, "Long live the kingdom of Hajim," and the main hero, thinking that people are just excited, imagines that it will all end with a wedding with the princess. Although she is still just a princess, everyone respects her very much. But the main hero raises his hand, as if stopping everyone, and asks if he can return to his world, and the girls and the king respond only with grim smiles. The main hero remembers how he was sitting on the bed playing games, and now feels like a stranger in this world. One day he was simply taken and called here. So he was declared a hero, and immediately thrown into battle, sent to kill the Demon King and even expelled from Penniless. The king offered him to take some stick and go fight the Demon King, and even the princess called him a ragamuffin. Every day the boy did nothing but fight. He was already tired of such a life. He was exhausted. The king looks at him and sighs heavily. The king asked the boy the same thing again. The magic that brought him here works only one way. There is no way back. He says sadly that it is impossible to return this person in such a way, and the boy becomes uneasy because of this. Their country is held together thanks to heroes, so there is no point even thinking about how to return them. The boy understands that it is a futile matter. The king decisively tells the main hero, "Don't think about it, marry Tropia, because together they can make the kingdom strong." The girl stands up and smiles. The main hero realizes that he was deceived. No one even intended to return him back, and he desperately dreams of returning to Earth. The main hero remembers those times: phone, online games, shops, how he messily lay on the bed, ate sweets, spun a hook, and in the morning woke up afraid of being late for class and looked out the window of his room. Then he usually mentioned that he had already finished school but still hadn't found a job. The boy laughs awkwardly and says that back then he had no worries at all and would like to turn everything back, while the king and princess remain silent. The boy thinks, "If I am here now, then what is happening on Earth?" The king nods, as if he understands him perfectly. "But what about the engagement to the princess?" The girl hisses "scoundrel," and the king asks if she means him specifically. The main character is convinced that there is absolutely no entertainment here. No manga, no anime, and his favorite series has probably long ended. The king just smiles and says there is nothing to be done. The king addresses the knights and asks them to listen carefully. Now they need to start preparing for the banquet. The knights listen to him and immediately scatter to carry out the tasks. If at the banquet the king announces that the hero Shodo is engaged to the princess, he definitely will not refuse. The boy understands that they want to force him to accept this decision, but he is not going to obey. Shodo tries to escape, but someone stops him. The princess, angry, asks him sharply, "What did you just do? That was very disrespectful." She asks the boy if he is perhaps dissatisfied with her, looks at him, and he closes his eyes and thinks that Tropia is actually quite a good person. The girl thinks if he turns out to be too stubborn, she will even cut off his legs. As long as there are heroes, everything else is not so important. She will protect this country. The boy is stunned by her fierce look, does not know what to answer, and turns back to her. The The main character tells the girl that all this is impossible, and she, for physiological reasons, looks sharply at the boy, clenching her jaws and trying to hold back her anger. She is all on edge, and the boy thinks that now she will finally understand everything, apologizes and leaves. The king raised his voice and announced to everyone, the hero seems to be trying to escape, catch him. Someone unleashes a magical storm, and someone throws a magic net. The main heroine in the web asks what kind of trial this is compared to the attacks of the Demon King and his generals. This is just a light breeze. A girl with a knife approaches him, and the boy feels that the same energy emanates from her as from the Demon King. He immediately runs away from her. The main character activates the fast movement magic, Biddish, and like a shot, flies through the wall over a great distance. The king realizes that he has escaped and says, he must be caught. The girl also realizes that he has disappeared. But the girl swears that she will definitely make the hero Shoto hers and peeks through a hole in the wall. The main character hovers in the air and says that he once thought returning to Earth was impossible. He defeated the Demon King, left the kingdom behind, and ran away. Maybe this is how his travels will begin. If you finish an old role-playing game, a similar plot might also appear there. The boy looks down and sees a river. Thinking he needs to rest, he neutralizes the magic and falls down. But he immediately falls to the ground and feels that controlling magic is now too difficult. If his level were lower, he probably would not have survived. He gets up and decides to drink water, and it seems to him that it is crystal clear, but suddenly someone stops him. The girl with horns reproachfully tells him, "You can't drink this water like that. It must first be filtered, then boiled," and she wonders how he drank it anyway. At that moment he falls to the ground from stomach pain. Agro asks the girl what happened to Katrina, and she answers that something bad happened. The man narrows his eyes and asks the boy if he drank that river water, and he only says that it is quite possible. Not knowing what was in that water, the girl rushes to gather herbs to remove the poison. Previously, the main character only bought water and simply drank it, so he suspected nothing, but now he has become smarter. He got up and used magic himself to neutralize the poison. The man looks at this with bewildered admiration and says, "This is incredible. Could he really be a wizard?" If the pursuers suddenly find out that the boy is here, avoiding trouble will be impossible. The main character smiles and says that he is just a boy who can do magic, and the Ogerman, stunned, wonders and asks what it means to be able to create magic. The boy feels that the man is not hostile, but still remains cautious. The man looks at him attentively. The girl ran up with a bouquet of herbs in her hands, and shining with joy, exclaimed that she found the antidote. Both looked at her in surprise. She asks the boy if the stomach pain has already passed. He is about to answer that he used magic, but suddenly notices wounds on her hands. The boy pretends to feel unwell, urgently asks to be given the herb immediately, swallows it, and says that it helped him. It simply saved him. The girl asks if this herb really works so quickly, and he replies that medicine always helps him instantly, and she is glad that he is feeling better. The main character notices that she was injured because of him, touches her hand. She says it is just a scratch, nothing serious, but he still uses healing magic, and the wound instantly heals. The girl froze in surprise, and then admiration lit up in her eyes. He can do magic, although he modestly says that he just knows a little magic. He thought if this is true, then he did not need those herbs. After all, there is magic that can neutralize poisons, but this boy denies it. He lies to her, saying that sometimes he cannot get rid of the poison, and suddenly the man wants to say something. Ogerman asks the boy if he is heading somewhere now, and the main character asks him to listen carefully. The main character suddenly waves his hands and says that he is actually just wandering aimlessly, and the ogres look at him in surprise. Suddenly all three laughed out loud. The man admitted that he is afraid to leave the boy alone. He might eat a poisonous mushroom and die, so he invited him to his home, but warned that he would need his help. The main character, smiling, asks him if it is not scary to invite a person you see for the first time, and suddenly this man grabs him by the head. The man puts his hand on him and says that only someone who has thoughtlessly drunk river water and writhes in pain on the ground could say that, but the boy disagrees with him. She says that her father is very persistent and independent, and the main character agrees with that. Smiling, the main character says that independence is an important trait, and he really needs it for a new life. The man firmly shakes his hand and says that he will gladly help. This is the lumberjack Brust, and his daughter Katrin stands nearby. The main character wants to say that he is a hero, but stumbles and changes his mind. The girl looks at the boy with a questioning look in her eyes. He thinks that he will no longer be a hero, and from now on will live peacefully, away from battles. The boy loudly exclaims that his name is Shoto, and he is going to the mountains for the first time. He glows with joy at the meeting, and Katrin and her father are also happy to meet him. Then the three of them set off further, and a new, quiet chapter begins in their lives. The boy comes across his first mushroom and is amazed, and Katrin warns that this mushroom is poisonous and dangerous. In the middle of the forest stands a wooden house, nearby, a stump with an axe, and it is here that the main character begins his new, peaceful life. He asks confusedly what he should do at all, and Catherine laughs, noticing how Shoto is nervous. Brest points to the stump and asks Shoto if he has ever chopped wood. Shoto thoughtfully replies that he has seen it in anime, but does not fully understand how it actually happens. The man asks the boy not to look away, and shows how easily he chops wood. The main character says it was incredible, but the man does not believe him. Now this man himself wants to try, he just happens to have the right tool, and he takes out his sword. This is a sacred sword, Ragnarok caliber, created by the gods to tame the demon king. It can release a magical beam. The man asks in surprise if he really intends to chop wood with a sword, but the main character decides to try. Splitting the log is as easy for him as cutting soft tofu cheese. The main character raises his hands with the sword, strikes, a powerful wave rushes straight to the mountain and splits it in half, and everyone around is simply frozen in shock. From this turn of events, Catherine's heart sank. She screamed. The boy swore and noticed that the girl was losing consciousness. But the main character manages to catch her in his arms, and he is struck by her gentle scent. Regaining consciousness, the girl asks the boy what just happened, and he replies that it is just time magic, rewinding back. The main character barely rewinds time. After that, Brest admits that it seems to him as if something just happened. The main character shares his guesses with him. The boy is confident. All these skills and new techniques barely help in everyday life. The main character grabs an axe and decisively says he will take revenge. He drives the axe into a tree and splits a log, but both parts fly right into his eyes, causing him to scream. Katerina looks at the boy with surprise, and the main character says that everything is fine. It doesn't bother him at all, and she is even more surprised by this. In Rust, beginners often try too hard, for example, chopping wood with such force as if Katerina herself took it upon herself. The girl asks the boy to look, and the main character, quietly watching in the meantime, thinks, in the Brust house where he manages everything together with his daughter, he will definitely succeed. The girl chops wood so skillfully that the main character simply froze in amazement. He tells her that it was really unexpected and impressive, then adds that she smells nice. Brest gently hugged the main character with his arm and asked with a smile if he was okay. Katrin was confused and instantly ran to her room. Brest still tries to say something, and the boy listens to him attentively. The man says with a smile that it is the first time he has talked so long with a new acquaintance. He likes people like him. The girl asks her father to stop, but he just laughs. The main character glows with joy upon hearing from the man that he likes people like him. The girl smiles and says she will go prepare something to eat. The man smiles and is glad that she finally found a friend her own age, then turns to the boy and asks him to stay with her while he is here. The main character raises his fist and decisively says he will take care of her, and adds that he can learn a lot from Katerina, especially how to chop wood properly. After some time, a real pile of chopped wood has already grown behind the main character, and he is stubbornly chopping another log. After a short training, he learned to skillfully chop wood. The feeling was almost like a victory over a strong monster. From this wood, charcoal is then made, which is used for cooking, heating, and warming water. The main character smiles and says, "Interesting, even though I refuse the title of hero, I will still continue to develop further, like a novice lumberjack." The man asks the boy about the hero title, but he does not answer. Brest looks at the wood and says that now there is definitely enough. The boy did well, and now Brest will show how else the wood can be used. The boy is surprised. The main character smiles and says that this unfamiliar, peaceful life constantly surprises him. The boy smiles, tightly gripping the log in his hand, and thinks, this is a real challenge. It is already getting dark outside the window. 3 plates of food stand on the table, and the main character looks at them, surprised that there is boiled rice. The boy started eating very quickly, swallowing gulp after gulp, and says that he thought, in such a remote place there would only be meat, and the girl asks in surprise how he manages to eat so skillfully. The main character shows an empty plate and asks for seconds. The girl smiles and agrees, and Ruse says that it seems he liked the spices that Katerina added. The fireplace needs to be heated faster. Today they are serving stew. If Shota were not here, it would be eaten for 3 days, but now everything will be eaten at once. The girl asked if the boar he caught was big enough, and added that from such fresh meat, it is best to make stew. Katrin says broth and fat, all this does not go to waste. Steam rises from the plate. The boy thinks about how deliciously Katrin cooked the meat. It smells just like a real animal. The boys hurriedly start eating, thinking that it is the herbs that give the dish such an unusual aroma. It is very tasty. The main character asks for more. The man only smiles and says there are 7 portions, but he doesn't believe that he will eat that much, and Shipper explains, this is a real test, all because of magic and special skills. The boy utters a few words in a language incomprehensible to Katrin, then smiles and explains that in his homeland it means, thank you for the food, it was very tasty. The girl smiles and thanks the boy for eating everything. Since Shoto ended up in this world, he has learned so many important things. The girl notices him walking away with the plate and asks if he wants more. The main character says he wants to wash the dishes, and the girl replies that there is water in a barrel outside. The man goes outside and gropes in the darkness for the barrel with water. Around is complete darkness, and only the moon casts pale light. The main character walks down the dark street and looks up at the sky. The moon floods everything around with light. Just a few days ago, he defeated the Demon King. Today, he came to the palace and immediately ran away from there. The boy washes the dishes and looks at the door. And now he sits at the table with the ogre family, has eaten his fill, and shines with satisfaction after a delicious stew. Shoto's life still has to take shape, but it all started when he was summoned to this world. Suddenly, the girl turns to Shoto, and he looks at her in surprise. She says that they have already filled the bathtub with water and asks if he will go. The main character is stunned by her question. The boy happily rushes and exclaims that of course he will go right now, and the girl reminds him. First they need to decide how to heat the water for the bath. Shoto says if there is water for washing dishes, then there will be water for the bath. The water will be heated on an open fire, with firewood. The girl understands that this is a great way, and the mission, heat the water for bathing, has begun. The main character asks to leave it to him. The man notices that he is serious. The hero laughs and promises to show how easy it is to handle such a difficult job. The girl sincerely wishes him luck. The boy says he is already going. He takes the firewood that he chopped himself. He looks at the stove in the wild forest and thinks that he understands why the stove is downstairs, but the bathroom is wooden, so why doesn't it burn? Suddenly he notices an iron container underneath, in which boiling water is bubbling. As soon as it heats up, a wooden brush is lowered over it. The boy is amazed that all this happens in the open air. The atmosphere is truly incredible. He is about to quickly pour out the water, lifts the huge vessel with his hands, throws firewood and coal to ignite the fire, and then the boy activates his fire skill, which he himself calls Start Small. Shoto smiles, watching the firewood catch fire. Wonderful, the water is already starting to heat up. Meanwhile, the girl, wrapped only in a towel, climbs into the bath. The boy thinks he needs to watch the fire so it doesn't get too hot. Now he can finally boast about his heroic skills. The boy realizes that in fact right now he is not a hero at all, but an ordinary boiler master. Shoto, the girl, enters the bath and says that it is very warm here. The girl enters the bath and says with delight that she really likes it. She simply loves bathing. Images in his imagination swell him with pride. The girl says the water is simply wonderful. Does he really have a talent for this? He replies that he himself did not expect this. The boy continued heating the water on the fire and reassured that everything was fine, and the girl noticed that the water was too hot. He only asked to wait a little longer. The main character instantly casts a cold spell. The girl says that she is now too cold, and he looks up, sees that she is standing at full height. The boy looks at her with admiration and thinks, as he predicted, ogre girls have very nice figures. Suddenly the girl screams, demands that the boy turn away, and then sharply pokes his eyes with her fingers. The boy lies on the ground and squeezes his eyes with his palms. The girl says, "That's not nice," and leaves. The boy saw something beautiful and will keep it in his heart thanks to his good memory. Suddenly the girl's father appears and says that he was the last to go to the toilet, so he should go first. The boy looks at him in shock. The main character wakes up in a house on a pile of hay, looks up and suddenly realizes, there is a ceiling here. He reaches out his hand to it. The boy pours water into a bowl, confidently says that the weather is always good here and there are no monsters nearby, then leans down and begins to wash his face with that water. We say joyfully, here it is, civilization, like a rest in a tent camp. Russ stands holding a yoke and tells Shoto that he got up early. The boy greets him and notices a bucket. The man puts the carrying pole on his shoulder and says to the boy, "I'm going for water. It needs to be drawn every morning. Until the big barrel is filled to the top, he will have to run back and forth constantly." The man thought and began to invent something. He believes that by using a magical storage, he will be able to take all the water at once. Then the boy stops thinking about it and asks Bruss to give him one more such thing, and Brust says that there is another one with Katrin. With magic, the main character would have solved everything in 2 seconds, but he strives to learn to live peacefully, so he relies only on his own strength and even puts a yoke on his own shoulders. The boy mumbles to himself that the hero's skills were never needed. The man hears this and asks about the hero, but the boy sighs and says that it no longer means anything. Now he is just a water carrier in Shoto. They approach the pond, and the main character is surprised and cannot believe it. This is the same river where they first met yesterday. The man bends down and scoops water, and the main character asks him if it is poisonous and if they know how to collect drinking water here, and the man, filling the bucket, replies that he does not know. He has heard this before. First you have to boil the water and only then use it, but drinking water spoils in a day, so every time you have to do the same. He carries water, catches it, and boils it. The main character marvels at how everything is distributed here and how well people live in peace, but Brust says that he is clearly exaggerating. The boy fills the barrel with water and tells the man that together they have already collected enough. Grudy agrees and says that there is no need to go anymore. Until today he did everything alone. Now the boy beams with joy and says that with the arrival of a new assistant, their work has become 20 times more efficient. The man pondered that number and said it was incredibly large. He thought he had plenty of modesty, but apparently he was wrong, and 0, that is really a lot. The main character turns to the mentor and asks for advice on what to do next. The man is noticeably interested in the mentor. The boy says that all this time he has been teaching him to live in a new way. The man admits that he is a bad mentor, and Shoto jokingly calls him modest. The main character fills the buckets and suggests returning, and the man supports him and asks, "What happened?" The man tells the boy that although he is short in stature, he is very strong, because to lift buckets of water, one must have strong legs. At first, the boy says he just has a high level, but Brustus does not understand why that level matters here. He simply has extraordinary physical strength. The main character suddenly realizes, Brust and Catcher do not even guess that everyone has their own level. In this world, such a concept does not exist at all, and Brust himself has level 15. Here the boy gained a strange ability to recognize people's levels, and he saw the level of everyone he met. This gave him a chance to grow. He constantly watched videos about trading. One boy asked another if he had enough courage to train the same way, and the other admitted, "I also try, but from exhaustion I fall down once every 3 days." The main character is convinced. He has already reached the top, learned many skills, overcome all limits of possibility, single-handedly defeated the Demon King, and now feels truly free. He had comrades who also gave all their strength and reached their maximum. The boy remembers his friends. The main character froze, looking at the girl who is hugging the boy, and with sad hope asks himself, when will they become a couple? He realizes with anger that he also had a chance, but then he was probably too inexperienced. Brust asks the man why he grimaced like that. The main character got scared and apologizes, saying he just remembered something unpleasant from the past. The man replies that life has all sorts of things, so he won't ask further. The main character nods in agreement and says that in the photo Brustel looks very young, but his gaze is extremely penetrating. Shoto wonders, why is it exactly now, when he has lost everything, that he truly begins to feel alive? This is exactly what he was thinking about. At that moment, a man approaches him and lightly touches his back. The girl holds a basket in her hands and joyfully shouts to her father and Shoto, "Breakfast is ready." They happily walk to the table. Catherine said she added more, especially for Shoto, and the main character was quite surprised. The girl smiles sweetly, and the main character feels how Catherine's smile warms his heart. The main character says goodbye to his past, welcomes the future, says enjoy your meal to everyone, and begins to eat. The boy tries it and says, "Very tasty." The girl asks him to eat as much as he can. The man replies that he is still as agile as before. It seems the locals here mainly eat potatoes, but the stew and bread that Catherine made are truly incredibly delicious. And now the main character is already preparing for the most important task, to eat the bun. He says that first it must be prepared, and only then can it be eaten. The man cannot contain his curiosity. What is it made from wheat, and was it kneaded like dough? Then he turns to the main character. Catherine waves to the boy and calls him, "Let's go dig potatoes together." The boy quickly runs up and says that finding food is the most important thing. The man says that they definitely need to go. After all, now they have more eaters. The boy notes that she cooks very well, and Catherine is a bit shy and replies that it's just boiled potatoes. The main heroine smiles, thinking with satisfaction that she is very cute. Brust asks the boy if they convinced him, easily pats him on the back, and the boy dents the ground with his foot. Rest this morning was simply frozen with surprise. How strong this guy is. He says he just trained a lot. The man warns the boy, if he continues to behave like this, he should beware, because Katerina will fall in love with him. The girl is fiercely angry at her father. She hits him and shouts that she is not like that at all. Her blow was so powerful that even the ground shook, and the main character asks if this is the power of the strike. The strength of ogres is several times greater than that of humans, so their sternum is probably as strong as that of a buffalo. Thanks to incredible endurance, they survive even in the most remote corners. The main character suddenly wonders, why do these two live so far away from everyone? The man says it's time to dig potatoes, takes a shovel, and thinks it's better to live quietly here and not attract attention, because if he is suddenly found, trouble is inevitable. The hero who saved the world became a fugitive. Hanny also broke off the engagement with the princess. At that moment, the princess sneezed and asked to deliver a letter to the head of the guild, and the man told her that perhaps it was better to rest. She looks and does not understand. What nonsense is happening here? The foreign policy of this fool is simply absurd, and what is going on inside is completely unclear. They are almost bankrupt, so how can one relax even a little here? The princess says that if that guy were here, there is no need to guess or hint. You should threaten him right away. She angrily grabs the handle and says he is a fool. Now the boy, remembering this, understands there is something frightening about this princess. He feels that she wants to use him for her own purposes. The girl draws the boy and quietly thinks about him. Then the harvest has already been gathered. The main character takes a vegetable and with a smile says that something like taro can be made from it because it can be eaten raw, but the girl warns. Under no circumstances, it is poisonous. Catherine says that the poison from potatoes can only be removed if they are boiled several times or soaked for a whole week. The main character looks surprised. He cannot believe it takes so much time. Shoto thinks that the world is full of poison, and this morning he swallowed one of those poisons. He knows for sure that he would not have survived here alone. The main character takes Catherine by the hand, and with sincerity in his voice, says that he is very grateful to Brust and Catherine. The girl replies that she does not deserve this gratitude. Then the girl shyly laughs. The boy thinks she is cute, and at the same time cannot help but notice her large potatoes. The main character sighs. He bought a bunch of potatoes, but they ran out immediately. Brust calms him down and says, wait a little and they will appear again. Shoto understands that they rely only on nature, but cannot help asking, what about a stable harvest? If you ever tried growing sweet potatoes, it would be just wonderful, he says. When a man dreams of a peaceful life, he immediately imagines working in the field. He has tried it more than once, but each time a wild boar ruins everything. Shoto asks him if this is the same soup. The man answers affirmatively, and the boy says it would be good to have a constant source of food and thinks about it. He says, we will cultivate the field and drive away the wild boars that come here, and we will have both fresh meat and a harvest, and the girl is surprised that he really intends to sow the field. The main character gladly agrees and asks to entrust this to him, assuring that he can protect the city even during an attack by the demon lord's army, and then his dream will come true, and the girl is interested in what dream he means. The boy with a sparkle in his voice says that he wants to eat buns, but he has no idea how to make them, and the man next to Katrin replies that they don't know either. Ras says in a heavy voice that it won't be easy. The man calmly replies, a long journey begins with the first step. Katrin adds that she will help him too. The first step in preparing the ingredients for the buns is to make the perfect field. The boy with a joyful sparkle in his eyes exclaims that it's time to start. First he calls himself a hero, then jokingly says that he is just a worker. The man suddenly declared that now that he has decided to plant potatoes, he can take the plot he wants to plow. The main character was so surprised that he gaped. The fighters have already managed there, and no matter what, it's definitely better than cutting down the forest again. The boy says that it helped a lot. The main character hesitates, doesn't know where to start. He looks at the holes and wonders if wild boars dug them when entering the field. Then he remembers how Bruce chased them away, and then the wild boars turned into stew, which means our efforts paid off. In this world, everything is connected. The main character picks up a potato and asks with interest if it is an ordinary potato. Brust replies that he once bought it in a village. This potato was unpretentious, so they gave it to him almost for free. Only small potatoes grew, and even those were eaten by wild boars. The man says he saved some tubers. The young man skeptically asks if it really means that much to him, and the ogre-like creatures hunt as they please and do not engage in farming. So they trust him, the plowman, our hero, who joyfully and with amazement grabs the basket of potatoes. He understands it is more likely an ordinary tuber than a sweet potato, and the boy bursts out laughing. Shoto feels the moment has come to unleash his heroic power. In the battle with the Demon King, he was completely helpless, but now, when his turn has come, he swings his potato. The boy recalls gardening lessons from elementary school, and this knowledge seems to him as if from another world. He tries to apply everything he was taught, even slicing potatoes, while Maggie closely watches his actions. He imagines French fries so much that he is drooling. But the guy understands, it won't work like that. The potato needs to be cut into pieces, then more sprouts will appear and the harvest will be better. If you plant the whole tuber, like Brust did, the potato will grow weak. Then the main character rushes into action. He waves his hand, twists it, and conjures, cutting magic appears, a spatial cutter. He takes a knife and cuts the potato into several pieces, but with one careless move, he can accidentally cut through space and destroy the world. If Shoto only uses magic carefully, his life here will remain ordinary, and the girl notices this. The girl froze in amazement, staring widely at the house, while the main character summons the magic of time reversal and suggests going back. The main character asks the girl what happened, she shouldn't sneak up so unnoticed, and also asks the boy if he has already cut the potatoes. His magic works like autopilot. With no enemies or allies nearby, he simply does not notice them. It does this automatically, and although he always uses it unconsciously, for some reason he did not sense Katarina's appearance. The main character thinks about the girl who brought him a snack and remembers how she wished him a good day at work. The main character marvels at Catherine's kindness and thinks he would like to marry her, while holding a jug that, as the girl says, is already old. So when he finishes eating, let him break the pot and scatter the shards nearby. The clay from which the pot is made will fertilize the soil. The girl points to the ground with her hand. Katrin also says that her father will make her a new pot, and the man looks at him closely and asks if Brust made it all. The girl admits that sometimes it seems to her that anything is possible. She even sewed her own clothes and is now examining them, and also says that her father arranged that clearing. But in reality, they had to do everything on their own. She stands with her back to the boy, who says, probably, it was not easy, but... The main character happily says that now there are 3 of them and their strength will become 10 times greater. The girl thinks about the number 10 and suddenly laughs, while the boy stands nearby dissatisfied. The girl joyfully raises her hands up and says to the boy, when you say that, it seems to me that they will definitely succeed. She decisively said that since that's the case, she simply cannot lose to Shoto, so she must return to work and wished him luck with the field, and the main character, with a pot on his head, asked her to rely on him more. The pot is empty. The boy ate everything and enthusiastically says that Katrin's dishes are incredible. Now he is full of energy. Then he points with his finger and says that it's already time to cultivate the land. The boy uses magic to indicate the place that needs to be plowed and throws a clay pot there. The main character launches earthquake magic, and the earth in the chosen cube begins to move. Then the main character slowly masters his magic, does everything step by step, and finally gets the field. Then he plants potatoes, places the tubers in holes at a small distance from each other, and says that the gardening lessons in elementary school were not in vain. The boy laughs, touches his face with a dirty finger, and leaves a stain. He joyfully exclaims that now he is the main star among the potato growers. Night falls, Shoto peacefully sleeps on the hay and snores loudly, until suddenly a thin squeak cuts through the silence, and he instantly wakes up. Suddenly the main character jumps up and shouts loudly, "Potato thieves have come," and immediately activates speed magic. Whoosh. He suddenly finds himself near his bed and sees 2 boars. The boy grumbles angrily that if anyone even approaches the field to dig up potatoes, he immediately finds out about it. It's a magical siren warning. The boy warms his hands, angrily approaches the boar, and tells him that he will not give up his harvest, while the boar prepares for battle. Suddenly several boars attack the hero. He is stunned, but they all suddenly stop. All because this man used the secret of soft soil, and now the potatoes grow without any problems. He says the earth must remain loose if you want the potatoes to sprout well. The main character presses his hand to the log, and thanks to the magical feather floating in the air, lifts his leg. The boy tensely prepares for blows, and coldly tells the boars that the laws of the jungle are very harsh. Then blows and boar cries are heard, and then he stands by the fallen animals and announces that tomorrow they will have a barbecue. The main character says that first they need to drain all the blood from the carcass, but maybe he will use magical equipment. A black hole appears in the air, where he puts his hand. Shoto stacks the boar carcasses in the storage, and explains that time does not pass inside, so the meat will always be fresh. The man returns home, anxiously thinking about how to build such a fence that will withstand a thieves' attack, but this might threaten Brusting Katrin, so it's better if he takes care of everything himself. Morning finally comes. The hero first brings water and only then sits down to breakfast. During breakfast, the main hero emotionally tells everyone that wild boars visited the field at night. The man is surprised by what he hears and tells the boy that he is very unlucky. The main hero raises his hand and soothingly tells everyone not to worry. He has already decided everything, and the man is surprised. How could he have decided everything if Brust heard nothing that night? The main hero proudly boasts that he is not just a good hunter, but a true boar hunter, and Brust and Catherine laugh. Shoto invents new nicknames for himself every day. Then the man asks what happened to the boars. Their meat needs to be taken apart as soon as possible, so all three set off together, and the main hero says he wants to show them something. The boy opened his magical space. Suddenly Borgar has fell out of it, and Shoto explained that this is his own storage magic, which he invented and called inventory, so they both are amazed because such magic usually costs a lot. Shoto can hardly believe his eyes that someone else could have the same collection of items. Brust says he wants to have a saw one with the same name in his workshop. When the boy went to kill the Demon King, he only had a stick. He could only dream of expensive things from the armory. Then he asked at least for a copper knife and healing herb, and now his equipment is either made for him or a true legendary artifact. The man tells the boy that he truly masterfully controls magic, regardless of circumstances. The boars remained unharmed, and Shoto feels that they even like it. The girl, shining with joy, exclaims to Shoto that this is simply incredible and wonderful, and the main hero adds that he has one request. The boy asks the ogres to show him how to properly divide the carcass. He addresses the mentor, calling him Chest again, and only then realizes that he called him that once more. The man laughs and, awkwardly nodding his head, agrees. The daughter tells him that he is very cute when he is shy. That is how the father heard from his own daughter that he is cute. Rast told the boy that he would show him how to hang a boar on a tree with a rope, and the main character eagerly asked him to do it. For Shoto, it is extremely important to learn how to butcher a boar. He must be able to properly drain the blood, cut open the belly, and remove the entrails, because in the future the boy wants to engage in animal husbandry and cannot do without these skills. The main character believes that a dish made from a wild animal is like a true symbol of a peaceful life. Katerina notices that her father is glowing with happiness, and all this is thanks to Shoto, who laughs awkwardly. She trustingly tells Shoto that her dad is always terribly worried about her, so they have to be extremely careful. She recalls how the boy asked, "What will happen when we dig up all the potatoes?" and everyone was worried about that too. The man explains briskly what to do with the boar next, and asks the boy if he is paying close attention. The main character briefly replies that yes, he is watching. The girl tells how her father was incredibly upset because of the failure in the field and the invasion of wild boars, but who would have thought that the man who drank poisonous water from the river could lift everyone's spirits? The main character points at himself in surprise and asks, "Is this about me?" The girl answers yes and thanks him. The man continues to explain that this needs to be left to dry and asks Shoto if he understands everything, and the main character, who has been listening the whole time, replies that he understands everything. The girl quietly confesses to the boy that she will continue to help him. The boy is surprised and tries hard to listen to Brust's explanation, while she is about to tell him something very personal and feels a bit embarrassed because of it. She gently tells him that she and her dad are truly glad that they have him. Shoto stands with a serious expression on his face. He whispers to himself that he will be able to concentrate, but in the end he completely forgets what Brust said and is forced to review the recording left by his memory magic. Meat swings on ropes, and the man tells the main character that they gather here because the air in this kitchen is quite dry. The main character listens carefully to the man. Actually, it's best to do this outside in the shade, but animals might eat it, so the girl lifts the meat and hangs it on a wire. The main character cuts a piece of meat in half and can't believe how much fat it has. Brust explains that such meat won't become tasty, so there's no point in aging it. The boy understands this. Fatty meat has a lot of moisture and spoils quickly because of it. The main character stares at the piece of meat and asks if he should cut off the fat, but then dismisses the idea. No matter how strong I am, I still can't do it, and the chest and back laugh. The girl approaches the table and asks the boy for a piece. He asks if she wants to throw it away and gives it to her. She opens the cabbage with food and throws those pieces inside. The boy looks at her in surprise and says that this is their lunch. Catherine smiles and happily says that this is their lunch. Everything is ready. They can enjoy it. The boy takes a piece of meat, thinking that he doesn't really like pork. The roasted fat looks like a flower. He tries a bit and is pleasantly surprised. Suddenly he raises a trembling hand and exclaims, "This is so tasty, simply incredible, not like lard at all." Rust and Catherine look at the boy with a smile, and Rust explains, "If everything is done right, it will solidify immediately, and then fat can be used to make candles or healing ointment." The boy asks if it's really possible to make ointments and candles from this. He is breathless at how much can be obtained from just one well. This is real life. 2 days have passed. Catherine checks the meat and says everything is going as it should. The main character tastes it and realizes it tastes like dried meat and much tastier than what is sold in the store. A man holds a pigskin and says that although it is dried, it tastes better than fresh. The boy looks at the skin in surprise and asks if it is tanned, asks to see it, but Bruce refuses. The girl says she has already put the meat away, and Bruce says that he and Catherine will leave. The boy with a confused look asks if this is a trade in the village, and Brust sharply says, "Find yourself clothes, they will find something suitable for work." The main character is surprised and cannot believe how much they care about him. Brust smiles and says that although his gear is first class, it is not very convenient in the fields. Catherine adds that quality clothes last a long time. The boy is amazed. Good clothes here are expensive, cotton is hardly grown, so people usually have only 1 or 2 sets of clothes, and in summer many just walk around in underwear. Why this is so is not entirely clear, but for them it is normal. The main character looks thoughtfully at Catherine. She smiles and says that he is looking at her very attentively, and the boy understands. This is exactly why summer here is called the time of love. But the main character feels autumn is already here and the cold is creeping in, and the man quietly says that everything is already prepared. He throws something like a backpack over his shoulders and says that the skins of 3 wild boars in the form of dried meat should be enough to exchange for fabric. The main character is lost in thought. The main character shouted to Brust that there are already 3 boars here. Isn't that enough? The man thought, and the hero asks himself why he suddenly fell silent. The girl says, "We really need to go and look for clothes for Shota." She does not want to go, but understands they really need to look for fabric. He stops in thought. Why did it all turn out this way? Half-humans, the same orcs, supposedly were servants of the Demon King and fought against humans. That's what everyone says. So in this world, half-humans often suffer oppression, but the main character single-handedly challenged the generals and aides of the Demon King. And among them, in fact, most were humans, transformed into servants of the Demon King. Smiling, they attacked their comrades. How many did they kill then? So half-humans more often become targets of false rumors, and it is not hard to imagine what awaits them. The boy tells them that he will go with them to the village, and then no one will dare to offend them. Brust asks how exactly he will do that. Shoto shows them a finger up and says that it is a secret, and the man laughs and says that if it is him, then maybe it will work out. Then all 3 enter the forest. Mountains are visible in the distance. The girls carry heavy things, and the boy walks lightly, as if nothing weighs on him. The road was dangerous and would have taken an ordinary person a whole day, but the former hero walked alongside the ogre family. Then they all sat down to eat together. The main hero says that now he will put all their things into the inventory. The man smiles and says that their family has a new friend, and this is already a real celebration. They are always happy to see him, even if he comes only occasionally. Katerina happily suggests celebrating this and says that when they find fabric, the girl will sew him comfortable clothes. The main hero is pleasantly surprised by how kind they are. When they arrive at the village, the main hero freezes in surprise. It turned out to be much larger than he imagined. About 100 people live here, and at first he just wanted to say hello, but seeing the villagers, he changed his mind and asked how he could help them. Brest nods behind his back and explains that they came to exchange meat and skins. Nearby the man grumbles, saying that he smells like a peasant, and in general, he has nothing to exchange. Catherine, full of surprise, asks what strange things he is saying, and the man leans toward her and quietly says that she should see for herself. The girl awkwardly turns away and hides behind her father, and the main hero, standing behind, puts his hand on the man's shoulder. The main hero suddenly punches the man in the stomach, and he doubles over in pain. He lies down gasping for breath, while Catherine looks at him with a smile. The boy says he got angry and immediately punches him in the stomach. The man tries to say something. The man fiercely yells at Shioto that he will pay for everything, but the main character lays his hands on him and unleashes terrible magic, an endless nightmare. Now this man will wander in terrible dreams for 3 days and deal with those who interfere with Katerin. They need to leave. At first the girl silently looks at him, then nods in agreement, and they all move on together. The main character says with a smile that this is simply outrageous treatment. As he thought, suddenly someone shouts, "There are ogres here. Why are there demon servants here?" This is a place for humans. People behind whisper and look with indignation. Why this filth walks here, who let them in, and why they have not been driven out yet. Laughing, one man picks up a stone from the ground and throws it at Brasta, ordering him to leave. But suddenly someone's hand stops the stone. And here the very same stone rushes straight into the man's face. The main character used return magic and hit the target exactly. The man says, "How dare he, this is cruel." Another decides that someone is forcing them to throw stones, and when they themselves get hit in response, they immediately complain that it is wrong. They must quickly finish their business and return back. They shout at him that he is a worthless freak, and that someday a hero will destroy him. Shodo looks around at them confusedly. He goes over their words in his head. Those who once tried to do good and gave him a chance to start over now wish the hero would take his life. At first, the main character wanted to settle everything quietly, but it might worsen the situation. People wonder, why is it so hot here? They notice the roof is on fire, and some even suspect that the Demon King has returned again. The main character uses fire magic. Heat flares around, flames rise in the sky, and everyone freezes in amazement, even Brust and Kaishin. Shodo arrogantly shouted to the people that they should think about their behavior, and with a cold smile added, "You will think about this in hell." The people scatter in horror. The boy laughs and says that while they are thinking about nonsense, everything must burn to ashes. The girl hugs him from behind and asks him to stop. This is already too much, he agrees, calling her Juliana, and she looks up to the sky and asks him if he arranged all this. The main character was supposed to behave like an ordinary person, but suddenly got angry. A fireball about 100 meters in radius appeared over the city, rushing through the city like a labyrinth, and then he extinguished this fire with a single finger movement. It seemed as if the villagers had returned to the past. When the Demon King with his army attacked the people, they were almost doomed. Brust asks what that was. The boy explains that it was ordinary magic. The main character indignantly says that these inhabitants are simply terrible. How can he re-educate them? Brust says that their race really fought on the side of the Demon King. But here they can get everything they need only by exchange. This is the best they can hope for, and the man, gritting his teeth in displeasure, says he understands. The boy says that there were many people in the demon army, but one of those present insists that is not true. They are not at all like these monsters. It makes no sense for people to fight on the side of demons. They try with all their might to protect themselves from the truth. But the main character does not change at all. He is sure that only he is right and only he is pure. He cares only about money and power, and everyone else is just incomprehensible people. The main character felt that over time, he would definitely have to take care of their upbringing. The boy said that for such a tiny village, the local market is really big. The giant said that this place had turned into a stop for traders, and the girl confirmed his words and added that caravans gather here and then move on. People whispered quietly, they say ogres have appeared. The boy rolled up his sleeves, ready to get to work, but the man stopped him and, addressing the old woman, said that they had come to exchange fur and meat. The ogres said they needed fabric and asked hopefully how many items the fabric they brought would be enough for. She replied that she would pay for all 3 items, but he objected that was not enough. Last time she gave the same amount for only 1 item. The old woman sternly ordered him to be silent, only she agreed to trade with them, and added, if they didn't like something, they could leave. The nobleman shook his head and said it was strange to exchange 3 pieces of fabric for 3 boars, and the girl just smiled and replied that from 3 pieces 1 shirt could be sewn. The main character was sure, Brusting Katrin did not deserve this. In this world, those who are kind and honest always suffer. Therefore, he has no choice. He must punish those who act this way. The man sharply pointed his finger at the elderly woman and exclaimed that this was robbery. She said mockingly that such a young boy, as he probably knew little about trade. He used his banking authority. The man noticed. The situation at the market in the capital was indicated there. The hero exclaimed that for 3 boars, they should be given 15 pieces of fabric. She asked suspiciously, how is she to know that he is not lying? Moreover, it is not far from the capital, prices are different everywhere there. The boy smiled and asked, is this place more important than the capital? The woman said that it was true, and these words weighed more than some distant capital. Here are their own rules, and he must obey them. The girl turned to the main hero. He began to say that it was good. He understood, the village is more important than the capital. The boy said that their conversation was overheard by the head of the capital's central market. For this, he used remote communication magic. The woman could not believe that he managed to do it right then, in the very center of the capital, at the main market. The man said that the economy was then in complete chaos, especially in that backwater. He was the lord of the central market of the kingdom of Hajimno, a man who controlled all trade and always sought more. The old woman suddenly recognized him, and a whisper ran through the room. Other residents also began to recognize him and said that this could not be. The boy addressed the man and instantly realized the hero is connected through the call center. Ansat told him that he had angered the king because of the matter with the princess and therefore had to flee far away so that no one would find him. Shodo replied that it was a long story. If he asks him for help, he will tell the king about him, but for the sake of Katarina and Brust, he is ready to take such a step. The boy promised that he would later tell him about the princess and others, but he has not yet fulfilled the promise. In essence, Ansat is a true traitor. For him, a promise is like a contract that must be fulfilled. The main character admitted that he wants to find out how the fabric purchase is progressing. He asked tensely if he has to pay in boar meat and fur, how much will it cost? The man could not believe his eyes. There were as many as 3 wild boars. He said that the meat does not need to be cooked for long. It becomes lighter, so the process can be divided into 2 stages. In this case, at the current price, it will be possible to buy as many as 39 pieces of fabric. Brest admitted that he had somewhat imagined it would turn out to be so expensive. The girl, however, was happy. Now it would be possible to sew a lot of clothes. The hero turned to the man and said that they were offered 3 scraps in exchange for 3 boars, and added that this was simply a robbery in broad daylight. When logistics fails and sources of information are lacking, prices in border areas suffer from this. The difference was so staggering that it was precisely because of such robberies that the economy began to decline. The man asks the main character to spread this information to all corners. In return, he will keep silent about that call before His Majesty. The guy said that everything was perfectly planned and he would now send the coordinates. The man replied that he would personally oversee everything. The woman asked him to stop because otherwise their village might go bankrupt. Then Sat, his voice trembling with gratitude, told the main hero that they owed him for destroying the evil spirit Dalmat. The woman was surprised and asked again about the Dalmat, but the boy had already begun to say goodbye. The one who came up with the idea to boost the market and is adored by all traders is Domia Tuckland. She asked, "Is Mr. Delma an evil spirit?" The guy boldly declared that he is destroying the country's trade relations and openly supports the demonic king, definitely a human. In the portrait, a demonic energy still flickered. He believed that Dalma used it to expand her influence across the entire country. They told him, so to speak, that it was just rumors. He was called a fool and told that a person has no place in the demon army. He decided, something must be done about this. Katrin couldn't stand it and asked what the hero was talking about, and he asked her not to pay attention and said that for 3 boars they owed 39 sawed-offs. The boy dared to ask the old woman about it. She agreed. The hero, smiling, said that everything went wonderfully and the exchange was successful, and when the man intervened, everything turned out for the best. A woman approached him and said that, supposedly, it was just a coincidence. Then she asked who he was, if he could perform miracles, and was acquainted with various people. Catherine said that the fabric was enough for 10 pieces, and then she could sew something for her father, but he advised her to sew something for herself. The girl threw herself into the arms of the main character and sincerely thanked him. He always thought that ogres were incredibly strong, as he had read before, and now he could barely breathe because of it. He thought that this was his end. The girl apologized to him. The main heroine laughed, gently calmed her and said, "Don't worry, just keep going." Katerina said that it was precisely thanks to him that they exchanged so much fabric that they could hardly believe their eyes. She was filled with joy. He went with them. The boy angrily said that they could not be treated like that just because they were ogres. Even in battles with the Demon King's army, he never considered any race an enemy, only the person mattered to him. The boy said, if you simplify it well, it is very similar to that village. But as Brestwood said earlier, once the half-humans in that village did not know such oppression. To inspect this place, he had to contact the kingdom, and what a hassle it was. Previously, defeating the Demon King was not easy, and now he felt it had become even harder. The man's words echoed painfully in his head. He told him that he was very rude to him and that he would not forgive it. The demon laughed sinisterly and shouted that he would now show the power he received from the Demon King. He intensely wanted to see his true essence, the demon who lives in the very heart of the Heimino kingdom, the evil spirit Dalmat. Their king invented trade. He craves everything that people create because he wants to conquer it. He bows only to those who truly have power. Since the heroes do not want to submit to the Demon King, he decided simply to destroy him. This is the same guy who uses a magical device to show memories. They started a conversation about portraits and how they fulfill wishes. The paintings slowly draw energy from them and give it to the demonic king. The old woman said, Dalmat deceived them. She spoke quietly but confidently. They are completely mistaken. Half humans are not bad at all, and there are also traitors among humans. The woman looked at this and could not understand why such a simple thing was so difficult for her. The curse disappeared instantly as soon as the hero set the portrait on fire, and the old woman quietly said that she must apologize to that ogre girl. Once this stingy old woman was a talented merchant's wife. Over time, people began to whisper that they were too stupid. The boy dealt the demon a decisive blow. He awkwardly said that he forgot to delete it. The residents could not believe it. He turned out to be a hero. They bow, lowering their heads, and ask him for forgiveness. The boy thought it was a problem, but when imagining what could have happened to breasting Katrin, it becomes clear it's good that the residents found out about it. He addressed the villagers, introduced himself as the hero Shoto, and hiding his true identity, asked everyone not to tell anyone about today's events. The main character quietly whispered that they still had so much to realize. He shouted loudly so that everyone could hear him, and added that every person can make mistakes. They can also correct their mistakes. The residents began enthusiastically praising the hero. He said that it was good he did not burn the village, and the people decided it was better not to anger him because he is scarier than Dalmat. He made an agreement with the residents, and since then they have been silent. They will not tell anyone anything. The main character settled on the box inside. The boy said fearfully that if things continued like this, Princess Trapio would someday find out where he was, and he did not know what to do then. He was already about to return, but the woman stopped him, turned to him, and asked him to wait a little. The woman said that, thanks to him, the village had become like it was before again. The old woman said sadly that she was sorry. She could not properly thank him, and the boy smiled and replied that she should not worry about it. Now in his free time, he gladly raises birds. The hero asked if he could take one from her. She allowed it but inquired how he planned to carry it, and the man replied that it was not a problem for him. These eggs simply stunned the ogres. Brust said he had not seen such for a long time. The girl asked where he got them. The boy replied that it was really him, told the villager a story, and as a sign of reconciliation, he was given bread and eggs. Hava Luckbird looks like a rooster that lives on the ground. The hero said that he had made peace, and now the people from that village would never harm them again. The man, not believing, asked if he was really serious. This is wonderful, said the girl and sincerely thanked him. She suggested celebrating with an egg dish. The boy said it was a great idea, but asked to keep a few. Catherine, with a raised eyebrow, asked why they were needed. He replied chicks would hatch from them. The hero was inspired by the idea of raising Gullalok chicks so that later they would provide eggs for themselves. In that world, he dared for the first time to care for someone. In elementary school, he kept aquarium fish, but they all died. He wanted so much to raise this egg. The boy tried to calm down and said that everything was fine. After all, he was a hero. He knows many spells. The girl asked him what happened. She insisted that he said something about a hero, but the boy sharply replied that it was not so. He said that now he was engaged in livestock breeding and would try very hard in this matter. Everything was fine. Before that, he always knew how to cope on his own. For the sake of friends, he single-handedly defeated the Demon King. The girl turned to him. He whispered to her to rely on him, and she, with a note of doubt, asked if it was not hard for him to do everything alone. The hero completely threw out of his head that they were with him. The man, with a tremor in his voice, confessed he was not sure if he could sit through these eggs. He suggested, first we take one egg and then the others. He was taught that way once. That man nodded and agreed to start with one. The main hero sincerely thanked them and said that when he lacked strength, he would know whom he could rely on. They sincerely replied that they were always happy to help, because thanks to him they received a lot of fabric, and the peasants began to treat them better. Now he is the one you can always rely on. It is impossible to live peacefully alone. It is much better to do it among friends. That is the whole point. The girl said that the omelet was already ready. The boy was glowing with admiration and sincerely wished everyone a good meal. The chest was even surprised how much food is on the table. The hero saw countless colors and was glowing with joy when yellow appeared. If they always have eggs, there will never be a shortage of food at home. They will definitely have chicks. The hero asked Katerina to give him an egg. She extended the basket, and there was only one egg in it. One more egg, he said. The girl said, everything is in the omelet. He was left with only one egg. The boy was confused and did not know what to do if the chick did not hatch. For some reason, he felt that everything depended on him, and he felt a great responsibility. The girl shyly apologized. She said she had accidentally spent all the money. She desperately wanted to make as many omelets as possible. The boy gently asked her not to worry and assured her that everything would be fine. He said that even one egg would be enough. The heroic animal breeder Shoto reveals all his strength. He will ask them for help and then gently raise the little chick. The hero held his breath and pondered what needs to be done to hatch this egg. A perfect temperature, a safe place, and a few days are needed. But does it make sense for him to sit at home all this time? Carefully ensure that the egg does not crack and stays warm. The girl anxiously asked him what had happened. He replied that he was thinking about how to hatch the egg without getting distracted from work. Catherine sighed. It was really difficult. She unexpectedly suggested resorting to magic. Suddenly, an idea flashed in the hero's mind. He wanted to use magic and asked the girl to hold the egg. The hero uses cold magic for the first time and controls volcanic lava. After that, he will create a protective barrier, stronger than stone and iron, and then resort to gravity magic to better keep everything under control. And so he connected everything. The sphere appeared at the moment when the magics merged into one. He called it magic that preserves heat or magical seeds. He performs spells and magical repeats effortlessly, but with names, a complete failure. He can't even come up with the simplest one. The boy with a sparkle in his eyes said that now he uses magical seeds. Gravity can already be tamed, touch it, and you will also feel the magic of heat. He decided to make the blade his final test. If the boy hits the ball, this blade will simply smash the troll's skull. The hero hit the egg, and surprisingly, it remained intact. There was not a single scratch on it, and he was beaming with happiness. The girl was also sincerely happy for him. The boy whispered that it was all thanks to her. He thought she was extremely cute when she blushed. She insisted that she did nothing. The hero said hopefully that he would like to practice a little more. But fate pushed him to go work in the field. Let's support him and wish him luck. The man saw the boy and, a bit surprised, said that he thought the boy was busy with an egg. He asked what was on his head, and indeed there was an egg. The main character decisively replied that he had already taken several measures to prevent it from breaking. Bruss said that when that man talks like that, there is no need to worry. His magic is precisely for battle, but this spell, more powerful than a battle one, was created specifically for peaceful purposes. The boy cut down a whole bunch of trees. He explained that he wanted to expand the field and thought it was a good idea. The fierce giant announced that now, since relations with the peasants had improved, they would receive new seedlings, and the hero smiled and joked that this was one step closer to baking pampushki. Only wheat remained to be grown. He energetically said that it was time to start and asked if the stump needed to be pulled out. The man replied that it could not be uprooted anyway, even if pulled with all his might. He grabbed a shovel and said that first the ground around needed to be dug up, but the boy had already pulled it out with his bare hands. Thanks to the hero's strength, it became much easier for him. The man said that he had always had to work hard with a shovel, and the main character pulled him out of trouble so easily. That is true strength. The boy said that it was just training. Since then, he could call him a router, Shoto. There the stumps send out long and thick roots, so getting rid of them without a horse or an ox is almost impossible. Breast also started pulling out the stakes. He really managed to do it himself. Compared to other species, ogres impress with their physical strength. But for him, it all came down to the level. Under the stump sat a gigantic, sinister cicada. This demonic insect can attack people. The parasite lunged at the egg, but it failed. The man whispered that everything was on the edge. If he hadn't reinforced the egg, it would definitely have broken, so it's good that the hero managed to catch it. The ogre said that crickets are very tasty. The boy couldn't believe that these insects were edible. A peaceful life sometimes scared him. The hero proudly said that he had already learned everything, and now he could be called a true master lumberjack. The man said that he had come up with strange nicknames again, and the other replied that they were not strange, and added that self-suggestion really helps to work more effectively. The hero, seeing Ensat with surprise, exclaimed that he had an egg on his head, and that he was again engaged in some incomprehensible business. He said that he went to talk with the local residents. That place was quite far from the capital. He himself was surprised that he decided to check everything personally. Inset said that he was forced to do it, and a resident added hopefully. Thanks to Inset, they started on the path of correction, and the situation inside began to change for the better. He could not even imagine that after the victory, he would have to deal with this. Before, everything was foggy, but now it seemed they were negotiating with one of the three generals of the Demon King, and the guy could not hold back. How is this even possible? He said trading with a general is quite bold. The man said that probably the subordinates of that Dalmat, whom he defeated, were behind this. Although they belong to the demon army, outwardly they do not differ from ordinary people. The same was felt throughout the country. If this is a person, they can be trusted. The bitter truth was that the real power and the real leaders are ordinary people. The guy whispered that this was the real, bitter truth. The hero asked the man if he received his message. The man replied that yes, that was exactly why he had a question. He said that if his friend wants to be sure, the former hero must remain alive and not cause problems for others. This is his duty. The man, with hope in his voice, asked the hero to introduce him to his acquaintances and patrons. He sincerely thanked the man who picked up Shoto and hopefully asked him to take care of him. The giant man is stunned by the thought that the main character is friends with such a respectable person as the head of the central market. The man said that he once helped him a lot, and if it weren't for this guy, he wouldn't have survived. Brust only said, "That's incredible." Agrab, exhaling, said that the hero saved them all, and his daughter began to smile more often. The man replied that it seems spring has finally come for Shoto as well. They began whispering among themselves, saying that these two are just stalling for time. The boy thought this is already too much. He thought that relatives had gathered around him and sincerely rejoiced for him. At that time, it still painfully reminded him that he was unemployed. The girl called out that dinner was ready. The man sharply asked if the girl who came in was the cannibal's daughter. She was afraid of him. Catherine said that this was the same man with whom the hero spoke through magic. The boy replied, "I would be scared too if someone like that came to me." The man smiled and asked if he wanted to have lunch with them. His daughter cooks no worse than the city chefs. Ensat said excitedly that the food was very tasty. The boy said excitedly that Katerina cooks the most delicious food. The girl said nervously that earlier only she and her father sat at the table. Then the main hero came, and now this man too, and she was very happy about it. Inset admitted that he was very surprised when he heard that the hero was hiding somewhere on the outskirts. He did not expect this at all, but now he cannot worry. He even envies a little. He has to work every day, and after the defeat of the Demon King, there are even more tasks. The man said that he finally managed to enjoy the peace that appeared today, and the ogre suggested going fishing. The idea pleased everyone, so they all decided to go together. The girl confidently said that the main hero is definitely a good fisherman. He laughed. He thought completely differently. He did not know how to fish at all, and this skill was his worst. The boy asked to be called Fisherman Shoto. Ensout said that the hero had never caught fish in his life. The boy exploded with indignation. The girl said, "Then I promise to teach him." The man pointed in that direction and said that there is a good place there, and Ensat added that the air outside is very clean. The boy decided to try fishing. He asked Catherine how to catch fish. She asked if he knew anything. He only said, "No." The girl said when she becomes an older sister, she will teach him everything. He did not believe it. Katerina was older than him. The man replied that the girl was just pretending to be a teacher. She asked him to be quiet. The boy stroked Catherine's head, laughed, and said that she was cute. She replied firmly that she would not teach him. Bowing, he apologized to her. The hero thought that she was like Koryowin. The girl said that first you need to take a long stick and make a fishing rod out of it. The boy thought that the weather was incredibly warm. And probably it thinks the same. He really missed such a rest. Just in case, he cast a spell to wake up if a fish bites. He was terribly sleepy. The spells worked, and the girl suddenly became worried about him. The boy whispered that it seemed to him as if a fish had bitten. A big fish bit the fishing rod. The hero thought this is a trifle for him. He had already defeated the Demon King. He smiled and promised the fish that he would catch it, and the girl anxiously asked him to be careful, because if he jerked too hard, something bad might happen. He spun around and finally crashed into the wall. The ogre could not believe that everything happened just because of one broken rope. The man replied that no matter how Shoto behaved, he would still give his all. Some fish grabbed the hero. Catherine anxiously asked if he was okay. Lately, the boy had not felt as much like a fool as he did right now. He answered the girl, "Everything is fine, I am completely calm." The main hero decisively said that now he would catch all the fish and used cold magic. the girl noticed that he was behaving differently than usual. She, with a trembling voice, asked him to stop using magic. He apologized and admitted that he couldn't hold back. Catherine replied that it was good that he understood that. She said bitterly that he was too hasty, but after all, it was his first time. The fish bit again, and the girl asked him to calm down. This time, the fish was huge again. She asked him to watch the fish and see how it pulled, while she helped him hold the fishing rod. He jerked the fishing rod, and the fish suddenly jumped right onto the shore. It was big. The main heroine lifted it above her head. The men jumped up in surprise and decided to fry it for dinner. The hero called out to Brust and said that simply summoning magical fire was boring, but Brust replied that it was not boring at all, but fast, so no problem. The boy, with a sparkle in his eyes, suggested using telekinesis magic to cause a collision. Now they had a campfire burning on which they could cook the fish. It was such a dangerous spell that it could wipe the city off the face of the earth. The boy replied, "What suits the big one will suit the small one too. He can be dangerous, so it's better not to approach." The girl awkwardly apologized to him for having to deal with the fish and gently added, "Don't worry." Insat said with a smile, "First you wait for the fish to bite, then you catch it and eat it." He no longer mentioned all those problems at the market. It was a wonderful vacation. The man was delighted and decided to check everything himself. He sighed and said that after one hero's escape, everything became even more complicated. The boy replied he is curious what kind of hero he is. The girl laughed and, smiling, said that they look like good friends. The man replied that in the capital they experienced both joy and sorrow together with him, and the boy remembered how they sat on the tail of a Dalmatian and then dealt with it. The ogre said, "That's impressive, just like a real hero." The boy replied that he doesn't need to invent a hero. He didn't invent anything. He just thought he did so many incredible things as if he were a real hero. Shodo replied, "At this level, I can't do anything complicated." The man admitted that he doesn't know what people say about him. How good it is that he lives there and worries about nothing. He sincerely believed that he was very kind, and after returning from the battle, it seemed to him that he was almost a fearless warrior. The man laughed, seeing how the fish broke free from the hero, and then he was going to freeze everything around. The girl turned to the boy and said, "The fish is already ready." It was his first catch. He bit off a piece and immediately understood. It was very tasty. The man firmly said that he would tell no one about their meeting. But the princess felt something was wrong. He did not believe that Her Majesty could appear right there, but the boy still asked him to stop because it was simply impossible. His friends were stunned. He was acquainted with the princess. The girl saw how the boy tended the potatoes. He said, "I am a farmer." The hero decided to go to the river for water, and she wished him a good journey. He poured water into a glass and set off home. Near the door, he noticed a stranger. The hero felt as if he was seeing him for the first time. The stranger greeted him. He whispered that he had heard about the hero from the neighboring village. It seems the villagers did let slip about the hero. The stranger asked him to calm down. The boy replied, "I am no longer a hero, now just a farmer." The stranger, with great difficulty, questioned the locals, and only after treating one soldier to a drink did he finally learn what he needed. Indeed, later they somehow beat that soldier, saying he wanted to destroy the village. The boy admitted that until that moment, he had tried to keep everything secret and even forgave the villagers. The stranger sincerely said he came just out of curiosity. He wanted to find out something. He said he was talking about a book titled Visiting the Kingdom of Tuganer, and it turned out that the stranger himself wrote it. The boy said he was probably a true master since he managed to publish it, as if from another world. The stranger replied that he preferred to call himself a scientist rather than a writer. When the main character lived in Japan, he bought a bunch of ebooks and suddenly began to truly appreciate writers. He wrote them sincere reviews and added his own works and ideas to them. As soon as he did that, his account was instantly blocked. The stranger said the air there was pleasant and humid. Then he could have taken off his cloak. It turned out that he was a reptile person. The girl shouted "frog" and then quickly apologized. He laughed and said that in some ways he really resembled a frogman. Ludi exclaimed that they had a guest. He looked, and it was a frog. The girl asked him to stop. The man said that in their community of half-people, it was found that the neighboring village treats them kindly. And outside, a group of organizations is trying to cultivate this land. The man admitted that he did not even suspect that they were talking about them, and the stranger replied that it was truly amazing. Rust said that they were persecuted in their homeland and ended up homeless, so they had to arrange everything with their own hands. The boy asked about the persecution, and the man grimly replied that people consider the half-humans to be servants of the demon king. When the sun rose in the small town of Dacia Fascino, it bathed the entire wheat field in warm light. So now Dutch disappeared. The girl said that some strange light engulfed him, and then everything turned to ashes. The frog said that they still do not understand what it was, and that it is a real tragedy. The boy began to remember what this principality was like before it was destroyed. The giant ogre declared himself the immortal duke and threatens to sacrifice all the inhabitants to the demonic king in return for an invulnerable body. It was strange, no matter how much you burned or cut him, he still would not die. He said ominously that he would turn them into an obedient army of the dead, replenish his immortal army, and wipe the kingdom off the face of the earth. The boy unleashed hellfire. The monster laughed. "Fool, if you burn everything, you won't be able to win." The flames were also destroying his own body. The hero decided if he allowed him to turn everyone into the undead, everything would only get more complicated, so he burned everything. It looked too radical. The man said it would be simply wonderful if their little field became bigger. The frog suddenly turned to the main hero. He, with tension in his voice, asked him to show the field. The frog replied that the thing is, this field is a real fortress of peaceful life. While working on the book, he learned a lot of new things about this topic, and he likes it madly. The boy answered calmly but firmly, if that's really the case, just show him, and asked to follow him. He proudly said that he is very proud of it, but the plants are not growing yet. The frog replied, the stems are still very weak. He said, I drew this potato for my book. Compared to his potato, now they look more like beans. He asked if you know that they are often found in the east of the country. The little frog finally knew for sure. The plants lack nutrients. Not all sprouts receive the necessary elements, and he waters them too much. He asked, what does that man use to fertilize the plants? The main character asked, what are fertilizers? The frog said, it's obvious. This soil is not suitable for crops. It first needs to be well prepared and fed with fertilizers. The boy admitted that he was hearing about soil preparation for the first time. The frog asked why he was entrusted with this field. The man replied that the hero grows potatoes better than anyone. The girl confirmed this. Shodo replied that the frog told him the same thing and said it very disappointedly. They gently replied to him, you did the right thing by coming, so there is nothing to worry about. The frog happily said that they would prepare fertilizer, and the boy asked in surprise why she shines so much when talking about it. He answered there will be even more potatoes. The main character said, then it's time to start. The boy, full of curiosity, asked, what is needed to make fertilizer? The frog calmly replied that human waste can be eaten. He explained in simple words, it is what our food turns into inside the body. The reptile asked where they had put all these things. The man replied that they had buried them in a pit. The frog exclaimed that it was wonderful. He said that straw, ash, food leftovers, and fish bones would all work. They will gather everything now, said the girl. The boy was surprised. He did not imagine that all this could become fertilizer. The frog replied that fertilizers used to be made from whatever was at hand. No matter how well they prepared the field, it still would not become as fertile as the lands of Ducky. But on the other hand, it is a true paradise for growing wheat. The boy shone with inspiration. He quietly said that his dream was a wheat field, and also added that he dreamed of eating Ketron stew with bread. And perhaps he would manage to show Brust that very landscape once again. The boy turned to the frog with a request to help them. Klolok assured that since the hero had turned to him, he would definitely help. The boy sharply pointed with his finger to the place where the toilet is now located. He said that as soon as they dig a new pit, they would move along with the house. The little frog replied that it was an interesting tradition. The boy asked with curiosity what he had said earlier about how to speed up the growth of seedlings. Klolok replied, basically, it's just fertilizer. But you shouldn't rely on it alone. It can do more harm than good. So it needs to be treated properly. For this, they really need courage. The main character pinched his nose. Klevlok laughed and said that once in villages people also had to do the same. The boy said he understood. To cultivate the field and live peacefully, you have to overcome yourself and struggle every day. He also assured that he would help. They finally finished. The temperature and humidity were just perfect. It would make a great fertilizer, but the smell was incredibly unpleasant. After fermentation, the unpleasant smell should disappear. The mixture should smell like yogurt or somewhat like alcohol. The boy said he understood and asked if the point was just for the fertilizer to smell pleasant. They told him that this is how they always work. That's why it smells unpleasant. After some time, the smell will dissipate, so by lunchtime it will be easier. The boy asked if fermentation was a good method, and he was immediately answered, "It's just the fastest option." The girl shouted that they smelled and it was time to go wash up. The boy replied that his nose was already used to the smell, and the little frog added that when it smells for so long, you just stop noticing it. The main character boasted that he was good at heating water, and Clola answered honestly, he does not like to boil it and prefers it warm. The boy smiled and said he understood everything, assuring that he would maintain the right temperature and heat the water to perfection. The frog was terribly surprised. He said that the hero heats water amazingly. The boy replied that he simply skillfully conjures, but it is much easier than making fertilizers. The hero introduced himself as an inventor of fertilizers. The frog, with a sparkle in her eyes, told him that they need to create a good field together. Thus Clolo quietly merged into their peaceful life. They settled at the table and immediately started eating. The boy asked with surprise whether the frog swallows food immediately and how she tastes it, and he was explained that frogs perceive taste through the esophagus. Swallowing food, they feel true pleasure. The one who looks empty has an egg that he always carries with him, and it is strangely similar in structure. Soon someone is supposed to hatch from there. The girl said joyfully, "I succeeded." She praised the boy for doing a good job, said that everything was already prepared, and asked him to step outside for a moment. He asked her what she had come up with, and she smiled and showed him his new clothes. He said in surprise, "The size fits, it's worth showing this to everyone." Klolok suddenly remembered, yesterday Katerina had sewn something. The clothes fit the hero as if made just for him. The girl said she had sewn them so that they definitely would not tear during work. The boy apologized. The girl replied, "Even if something breaks, it's no big deal." A chick was breaking out of the egg with all its might. When they saw this, everyone held their breath in amazement. They watched it closely. The egg trembled and moved. The boy shouted that the chick was hatching. Soon the egg froze and they began to worry, guessing what had happened. The hero shouted that their fate now depended on the chick, and only he would decide. The magic of physical strength battle allows you to get ahead of time, to use the strength that will be yours only tomorrow today. The girl pressed his palm to his mouth and ordered him not to utter a single word. She said that the chick is trying its best right now, they can only watch it. The boy replied, "Understood." A chick was born and everyone exclaimed joyfully. The hero blurted out that he almost fainted from this cuteness. He stretched out his hands to the chick. They were trembling with excitement. The girl said the chick decided its mother is a real hero. Someone quietly told him that chicks consider the first object they see after birth as their mother. Catherine said that now they need to give it a name. It has already become part of their family, and the boy replied that they had waited a long time and hoped it would appear. He began to list hope, dreams, great aspirations, and victory. Since then, the main hero firmly decided that this chick would become his true victory. The girl said that the name is too long, so let him just be Toraimaru. She said that honestly, that boy neither knows how to invent names nor apologize, and the hero asked her to stop and could not believe that he was really that pathetic. Now this chick was called Toraimaru. The boy said he would raise a chicken, and then they would have even more empty castles. Klolok replied that this was already poultry farming. The hero asked if he knew anything about it. The frog answered that it was not within his competence, but she knew that chicken manure was an excellent fertilizer. The boy realized that as soon as the chick grew up, they would be able to harvest a bigger crop. But when you raise birds, there is always a big risk. They can be eaten by wild animals. The boy could not bear the thought that such a cute Toramaru would be eaten, so he decided to build a house for him. The man asked if the main hero was going to build a chicken coop. He sighed and said, when he worked as a carpenter, he often had to do this. The boy, quite seriously, asked us to help build him a chicken coop. The man asked to trust him and firmly said that he had done the right thing. Together with Klolok, they thought about the house. They needed to stock up on a lot of wood, and the boy noticed that if later they wanted to make a canal for the rice field, even more firewood would be needed, so he suggested going to cut down trees. The man stopped him. He said as if it were a law, for building, the wood must be dry. Otherwise, they will simply rot during work, and in the forest, trees take years to dry. So they go to the village and buy them. Thanks to the hero, they managed to sell skins and meat, and now getting firewood became much easier. They finally approached the village. The girl, with a glow in her voice, said it would be wonderful if the little frog also went with them. Philok said that the road there and back for him was like a real journey, so he would rather stay there and take care of the field. He asked them not to worry and assured that everything would be under control. The main hero advised the father to take his daughter and go to the market. The boy saw his grandmother. She was sharing her eggs. She greeted him. He excitedly asked her to look. A chick had hatched from an egg. The woman said, "He is very nice," and clarified it was a male. The boy sadly replied that they had eaten all the eggs, and only the one from which Torai Maru hatched remained. He asked hopefully if she could give them another egg so he could raise a companion. The woman said warmly that she had recently raised one chick and would be glad to give it away, and the man replied that she had simply saved these birds. At this time, trolls brought meat and skins to the market for sale, asked the grandmother to look at their goods, and she was very surprised to see this. The woman began to look for the hero nearby. The man said they wanted to know how much this tree costs. The old woman replied that first she needed to look at the skin and meat. On a leaf, she wrote down how much it would cost. The girl could not believe it and asked if it was really that cheap. The man replied that the price had risen significantly since she was last here. The woman said, "There is demand in the capital, so this tree has become more expensive." She said coldly, if they don't like it, they can look for another place, and the man calmly replied that the price suited them. The old woman started talking about the tree. They replied that they only needed this. She asked if he was going to build a house, and said that the sum was large, and the rest would be brought later. This time she will calculate the cost of the meat and skins, as well as the price of carts and donkeys, and the remainder will be the deposit amount. The main hero approached and asked how they were doing. The man sharply asked if he had brought new chicks. The woman was frightened by this. She smiled awkwardly and thanked them for the purchase. The old woman said that now she lives honestly, wished the main hero all the best, and he asked her not to get nervous anymore when she sees him. The woman, looking seriously, said that she needed to find a tree, prepare a cart and donkeys, and of course the payment must be appropriate. Then the giant addressed the main hero. "You said he still felt cheated. He was just annoyed when someone else profited from the exchange. For those who work there every day, there is no real substitute." He asked the old woman what the usual price was here, and she slowly handed him a sheet with the recorded numbers. The woman sighed and said that in that case they needed a lot of everything. Since the silence came, prices for building materials have jumped sharply everywhere. The old woman said they could take on credit and pay later. The boy asked them to wait a little. The hero approached the man and said directly that he wanted to take all his money. The man replied that this bank only serves large depositors and advises ordinary people to go to another bank. The banker recognized this boy. Shodo quietly asked not to make a fuss and just let him withdraw the money. He stopped and looked at the sign with the current rate. The man said the rate was the same throughout the country, but the news still slowly reached remote areas. The man said with admiration that the princess was wonderful. She replied that she wanted to teach the real one a lesson. She was informed that the hero's account had changed a lot. She was told no one knows for sure, but he used magic and instantly disappeared. She said he took a pile of money and could not understand why he needed so much. Ansat, who always worked without rest, took a vacation, and when asked if she needed to return, she replied that there was no point in it. She strictly ordered the knight to immediately go to Ensat and find out where the deal for such an amount would take place today, and then immediately head there. She burst out laughing and said that they would be able to find the hero's trail. Then the girl would finally be able to meet him. Shodo insisted they absolutely had to meet, and if something went wrong, a real disaster would occur. He entered and said, "I have returned." The hero placed a pouch of coins on the table. The woman firmly said that the hero brought exactly 23 coins, and the boy asked with interest if she determined this only by weight. He replied briefly, "In the capital, prices are like that, and he would not work with dishonest sellers. Everyone thinks that tomorrow the rate will rise due to high demand." The woman said, "If so, then I will give away the cart and donkeys for free." The man replied, "I like such gifts." The man said that the hero would have to pay a lot. He asked him not to worry. The girl froze in surprise how much firewood Shoda had gathered. She thought, he is simply incredible. She thought that the hero would grow a chick from an icicle to cultivate the harvest, and she would not be able to help at all, and suddenly someone turned to her. She was told that next time she should bring clothes for sale. The old woman will pay even more for them than for skin and meat. She asked if she had sewn the clothes for Shoda herself. The woman smiled and said that the clothes were indeed well made, just what is needed for working in the field. Such clothes are always very necessary in the outskirts. There are no good seamstresses in the village, so this is not a bad job. The woman said she would not insist, but the girl firmly replied that she would definitely bring them anyway. She asked what was so special about her clothes, since she is an ogre. The old woman replied that it was not her fault, she just hadn't paid the bills. The woman sighed, "The hair of the old witch is not that valuable, but she truly feels sorry." As soon as the girl decides to take her things for sale, she immediately begins to wait, because for her they always mean more than for others. Catherine's Thatcher with a bow. The boy said that she has a wonderful sense of humor. The girl said that it is good that peace reigns now, and the hero agreed with her. She said that she is very grateful to the hero who defeated the Demon King. Now there is nothing to worry about. The boy will deal with the enemy again, although some said he was just a dragon slayer. The entities felt the approach of the true Demon King. Heroes and ordinary people are powerless before him. Having flown through 3,000 worlds, the Demon King will descend to Earth, as if drawn by a magnet by human hatred.